All right, moment of truth here. How often does sex feel less like connection and more like something you're trying to get right or get through? Do you race to the finish? Do you find yourself performing instead of feeling? Maybe going through the motions instead of actually being there? Now imagine the opposite, slowing all the way down, feeling everything, everything, instead of racing past, turning sex into something you actually get to savor and unfurl into. That's what I'm teaching live on August 19th in a brand new masterclass called Slow Tantric Sex. 90 minutes, live over Zoom, real practices for building anticipation and staying present in arousal instead of rushing through it. It's only $33 to join live, and the cheat sheet and lifetime replay for just $11 more, so you never lose access to what you learn. Grab your tickets at sexreimagined.com/events.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. So here's a question for you. Why doesn't penetration make every woman out there come? And why are the outer regions of the vulva, not just the inside, actually where a woman's arousal builds? That's what we're getting into today. The clitoris and vulva are packed with nerve endings built specifically for pleasure, yet they're so often skipped over entirely, leaving so many women wondering why the normal way of having an orgasm doesn't work for them. I'm Dr. Willow Brown. I'm here with Leah Piper, and we are Sex Reimagined.
This is such an important topic because so many have felt frustrated and it's like, why can't I come from just penetration? As if that's somehow how bodies are made to perform. And it's not. We're going to give you all the tips and tricks so that you can have way more fun with way bigger vaginal O's. So this is a big one. Tune in, turn on, and fall in love with vaginal orgasms.
Welcome to the Sex Reimagined podcast, where sex is shame-free and pleasure-forward. Let's get into the show.
Okay, let's get some things cleared up right away. I'm always amazed when I am in circle with women and when the conversation regarding vaginal orgasms and have you ever had an orgasm through penetration alone? And so many women are embarrassed. They feel ashamed. They feel like there's something wrong with them. Like somehow they're not as sexually proficient because, and they've been faking their whole life when having sex, these orgasms that they think they should be having, when that's not how the female sexual body is organized. And there's so many easy, quick fixes so that you can have orgasms during penetrative sex.
Yeah, I feel like, if penetrative sex is happening too fast and too quickly before a woman's vulva is properly aroused and her brain and her whole body is on board, it's a little bit like a guy trying to, put his cock in when it's not hard enough. Yeah, like it's kind of like, well, we're just not ready.
Right.
We want to think about the vulva as like it's full of all this amazing, incredible erectile tissue, and that's your hard on, that's your hard cock, right? So we want to make sure that is full and fluffy and juicy and open. Everything starts to change. The color changes, the structure of the tissues changes. If you've never watched your own vulva get aroused before, there's a lot of information to be had in that experience, and it's a good thing to do throughout your life too, because as we go through perimenopause and menopause, like our vulvar tissues change. So we get to have a more direct relationship with this higher level of arousal tissue in our bodies if we choose to.
Absolutely. A teacher of mine once shared this phrase with me, and I just think it's brilliant. It's like we have a cultural epidemic called premature penetration, where we're all in a hurry to get it up and get it in and get it off. And and this is not just men being in a rush to get inside, women rush men to get inside too. And it's to the detriment of our own full sexual satisfaction. Because it's such a great visual analogy too. When you have a penis that isn't hard enough to penetrate, It's the ability to reach incredible levels of arousal drops. You have to have a certain level of arousal to get satisfaction. So when we bypass a woman's vulva stimulation, that means massaging the lips. That means us massaging not just the head of the clitoris, but the shaft of the clitoris, and that entire network of her vulva in the beginning. We're not going to be successful in having those deep, powerful, contractive vaginal orgasms, which feel very different from your clitoral orgasm. And if you're doing it right, your clitoris and your vaginal orgasms are going to fire at the same time. And we call that a blended orgasm, which is even more honey. So we got to figure out those very cool little teeny tricks to get your vulva more in the game, so that the likelihood of you having vaginal orgasms through penetration increases exponentially. Now, there are some women who can have just penetration only without a lot of vulval stimulation, and they can climax. Maybe they're just wired that way. I think when you have some training regarding your pelvic floor muscles, that type of vaginal orgasm is more possible. Whatever is penetrating her is aiming for the area of her G-spot. That also becomes more possible. I think when you squeeze your pelvic floor all around the thing that is penetrating her, that is also going to up the ability to have vaginal orgasms. And just to be clear, what's a vaginal orgasm as compared to a clitoral orgasm? What the scientific description is basically rapid involuntary vaginal contractions is how they define a vaginal orgasm. So if you can train yourself during non-sexual experiences to flutter the walls of your vaginal lining, you're going to be doing a few things. You're going to be training the neural pathways between your brain and your pussy that says, yes, I want these rapid contractions. My body knows how to do these rapid contractions. Rapid contractions is what I like to do. It starts to create a very strong neural pathway, so vaginal orgasms become easier. That's one. Basically, your Kegels. Do your Kegel exercises. That will help. But if we only focus on that, strong pelvic floor muscles, and aiming for the G-spot, we're missing the boat to way more ease, to being able to have internal vaginal pleasure. If we just include more vulva stimulation in conjunction with that internal penetration, it's just an easier way. It's an easier fix. And I recommend both.
I'm fluttering right now. Can you tell?
I can tell. I'm going to flutter
it in my eyes.
And actually, that's a really fun to do on a date.
Oh, God.
You're
so
at
fun.
dinner.
Fun
and
to
you
do
just
anytime.
Flutter your muscles towards the object of your desire. Get yourself warmed up for later in the evening.
Yeah, I think it's said that 1 in 5 women don't have vaginal orgasms, so they're not having the internal contraction, expansion, kind of involuntary fluttering pelvic floor orgasms, and all of that is completely possible to shift and change. And it really starts by having a deeper understanding of your own anatomy of arousal. If you haven't listened to our episodes with Sherry Winston, if you haven't read Sherry Winston's book, The Female Anatomy of Arousal, no matter what your gender is, as long as you like to pleasure pussies, go check it out, because there's so much incredible information in there. And, if you can bring a well-informed, some sense of mastery to a yoni massage, it's really going to increase that woman's possibility for vaginal orgasms. Even with fingers, I have a lot of couples who are like, just put your cock in, let's fuck and get it over with. I'll have an orgasm. We'll be done. A lot of times women who do have vaginal orgasms, they just want to do their thing, have it real quick, roll over and go to sleep kind of thing, and it's really a disservice to the rest of the erectile tissue. There's so much more pleasure to be had. And when you take the time, which could be like, some vulvas might need 90 minutes, some vulvas might need 15 minutes. It varies. But when you take the time to pet the vulva and play with the vulva, massage the labia, bring the stimulation to the clitoral, not just the clitoral head, which when you overstimulate the clitoral head can really kind of short circuit some women. And they may be like, okay, enough of that, like get away from there. But the legs, the shaft, the legs are inside of the skin, kind of right behind those lips. And they can be up to 4 inches long. So there's a lot of erectile and tissue and network that's attached to that tiny little nose that we see. So opening all of that up, plus these vestibular bulbs. And if you've never heard that word before, it's these like teardrop shapes of tissue that are attached to the clitoral legs. And those fill up with blood. And that's what pushes the introitus, or the opening of the vulva, the front porch of the vulva, that part kind of pushes together with all this pumped up tissue, pumped up full of blood. And then when penetration happens, when all of that is happening, it feels so good. It feels so good for everyone. It feels good for the penetrator. It feels good for the one who's receiving the penetration. It's going to give you a much higher opportunity and chance for having an actual vaginal orgasm.
Yes, those bulbs. So let me give you a reference point to these bulbs, because when we were coming of age, no one talked about these vestibular bulbs. Do you remember, ladies, how good it felt to hump things? Like, do you remember being 10, 11, 12 and becoming obsessed with horses? Now, my parents could not afford horseback riding lessons, but I could imagine there was a period where, like, I wanted horse figurines, like horses were so cool. There is something very instinctual about bouncing up and down on something, right? The reason why humping felt so good, whether you were humping a thigh, humping a butt, humping a back, humping a couch,
the
arm of a couch, yes, or humping a blanket or humping a pillow. The reason why humping feels so good is because of those vestibular bulbs. It's what creates a lot of the swelling of the yoni, the vulva. Remember, for those of you who don't know, the vulva is the outside. We used to just call a vagina and think that it was encompassing the whole anatomy of a woman's reproductive area. That's not true. The vagina is just what's on the inside. The vulva is what you see on the outside. And before you ever penetrate a woman, you want to make sure that the vulva changes through the arousal period. So before she's aroused, it's going to look one way. As her arousal changes, the outside of her vulva changes. It's going to deepen in color. It's going to glisten, and it's going to look fuller or plumper. The more and more aroused she gets, the fatter and fatter that luscious pussy gets. So you want to be able to visually check those signs out when possible. Ladies, many of you I know listening have never really looked at your vulva. And even more of you might have looked at your vulva, but you never looked at it in arousal. And that's a game changer. And it's one of the homework assignments that we give women who come to our Rooted in Desire program, which is one of our entry level women's only events. You get to be in a really supported, safe environment to begin to learn these things that no one ever taught you about your desire and how to capitalize on more arousal. And we've been missing out as a culture. We've so over normalized male sexuality that we expect male sexuality to be the same for women. But female sexuality is actually different. We have the same parts, but we're organized differently. And it's so important that if you've longed to have orgasms during penetrative sex, if you've shamed yourself and made yourself have less self-esteem because you've been faking orgasms during penetrative sex, look, this isn't your fault and you're in good company. Most women feel the same way because we expect ourselves to come the way men come. And that's just not how it works. And there's just slight variations we need and can do to be able to have just as much sexual climatic satisfaction. In fact, I dare say more sexual climatic satisfaction than men, if we just start to get curious and study these little changes that we can make. So in short, having more vulva stimulation to the lips, to the shaft of the clitoris, not just the head. Like Willow said, our partners tend to go straight to the head of the clitoris, and it's like bracing for impact. Too much friction, too much stimulation. It's too direct. If you were to adjust what you were doing to the side of her clitoris, there'd be so much more get off. If you were then to lighten the pressure you gave to that clitoris off to the side, again, you would stimulate us 5 times faster. If you were to go slower, like 8 times slower, boom, so much better. And then if you were to reach and really massage the lips on either side of her opening, boom, now we're getting somewhere.
Let's take a quick break.
Hey everyone, Willow here. So there's something really cool that I bet you never heard of before. The penis and the vaginal canal each mirror a full set of your body's organs: the heart, the lungs, the liver, the kidneys, the pineal gland. And the ancient Taoist physicians called sex healing love, and they meant it literally, not as a metaphor. They meant you could have sex as medicine. They even prescribed specific sexual positions to patients, the same way a doctor today might prescribe a stretch or a supplement, because certain positions stimulate certain points along the body more directly than others. So Leah and I are going to be teaching all of this live on September 2nd in a brand new masterclass called Beyond Pleasure, the sexual reflexology map to radical healing. And we're covering the full anatomy of the healing positions behind it that you can start using that same night. So it's 90 minutes. We're live over Zoom, and it's $33 to join. And the cheat sheet and lifetime replay access are an additional $11. Spots are limited, so don't wait on this one. Get your tickets at sexreimagine.com/events. That's sexreimagine.com/events. And come learn what your body's been holding all along. You know, I think it's so interesting. I feel like there's so much pressure to do something, to awaken a woman, to turn her on. And all of that pressure, even in the most conscious man, in the most conscious hands, even some who've been trained in Tantra, like they'll still come in with this pressure of like, oh, I have to do something, and then they catch themselves and they're
Right.
like, oh, wait, the less I do, the more happens,
Yeah.
it's really, and being a cranial sacral therapist for so long, like I can't tell you how deep I have gone with that lesson. Like the less I do, the more things realign and come back into balance. And so I think that's one of the things that we can really, as female embodied people, is support whoever's giving to us. We can really support them by giving them the feedback, not just through words like less pressure, go slower, but also through sound and through the way that we respond, allowing ourselves to respond and even exaggerating our response, because that actually brings our arousal higher as we lean into our response, whatever we are feeling, even if it's like, I'm not feeling much, but I do feel a little something. It's like, okay, let me give that a little bit of sound. Let me give that a little bit of lean in. And for the givers of the lovely vulva owners, one tip that I'm always giving people is like, make your hands magnets, just go to the level of pressure and touch and sensitivity that's going to make her body want to reach toward you. Like your fingers are magnets pulling her clitoral head toward you, pulling her vestibular bulbs more plump and more juicy and more awake and more alive. You want to think about, whatever you're
literal pulling with your touch. It is an energetic field of energy. Your hand's a magnet energetically, so that as you're touching her, that pulling is her reaching towards your touch.
That's
It's not
right.
actually something you do mechanically with your touch.
Good distinction. Yeah, you wanna basically become like a marionette where you're you're drawing her body towards you with your energy fingers, with your magnetic fingers, or your tongue, or
Yeah.
your nose, or
Or your
your
cock,
forehead, whatever or your cock, whatever it is that you're using, just you wanna
your
think
strap on,
about
your
the
vibrator.
think about the relationship between whatever you're playing with her vulva with and her vulva.
We just had Allison Armstrong on the show. You should go check that episode if you haven't yet. And one of the things she said is like, you'll hear women actually say, God, he's so clueless when he's touching down there. And it's like, yeah, give him clues. It's in the word. He's so clueless. That should mean give him some clues. Don't just act like there's nothing to say or ways to create a win. And we have to give each other clues in order to reach the states and have the satisfaction that we want. And just like you were saying, Willow, like that comes with breath, that comes with making sounds, that comes with how you maneuver your body, how you work with your hips, and the words that you say. All of that is so important. And there's lots of things, ladies, that you are in control of. If someone is penetrating you, maybe it's with a strap on, maybe it's with a penis, maybe it's with fingers, reach down with your own hand. So if, and here's another thing that's really, I don't mean to segue, I will circle back to that, but I think I'm always surprised by how many women don't like digital penetration with fingers. They're like, just give me a cock. Ugh, I don't like them. Fingers are inside me.
It's
Rough,
because they're too
you
rigid,
always
usually.
describe it like that. And I think it's because no one's fingered them well. It's
Yeah.
like men or partners, could be women too, are fingering them as if they're being finger fucked from 8th grade, which
Right.
really was never all that pleasant. And I feel like it's because someone takes their fingers and they just go in and out. And I wish everyone was watching this right now so you could see what I'm doing. There's no stimulation to the vulva. It's just in and out, down the center of the freeway, which is not hitting any erectile tissue. It's like someone trying to stroke your cock, and they can never give you an erection. They're just trying to stroke the way they would stroke an erection. They're trying to stroke a soft on like that. It's like nothing can happen. So when someone starts to work you and like diddle you really well with their fingers, they are stroking up near the front wall where the G-spot is. If someone's penetrating you and they're just going down the center of the freeway, fingers, cock, strap-ons, dildos, whatever the case may be, bring your own hand down, your palm, and put and scissor it so that whatever's penetrating you is going between the fingers of your ring finger and your middle finger, so that you've got two fingers that are on the right side of your vulva, massaging the lips, and then two fingers on the left side of your vulva, and then your palm, the heel of your hand, is at your clitoral area. Basically, you're palming your vulva while someone else is going and penetrating you. Now you have the full circumference of your vulva, which means you're connecting to the entire erectile map. You are then palming the vestibular bulbs on each side, the clitoral legs, the clitoral shaft, the clitoral head, and the clitoral hood, and the mons itself. Everything that makes it arousing now has connection. Because isn't it sex always kind of better when their pelvis is rubbing up against your pelvis because you're getting clitoral stimulation? You can have all that stimulation on the outside if you just know how to get your hand in there around the parts that are penetrating you. The success rate of your get off increases by like 80%.
It's so worth it. It's so worth taking the time to like slow down and explore all of this and change positions and use your hand. And also, really, we've mentioned already in this episode, but really worth taking the time to watch your own vulva get aroused, like self-pleasure yourself, get a light on there, get your mirror in place, and actually watch and see what happens. Now, another thing that vulvas love, sometimes minds get a little bit they can hide away, but vulvas love word baths. They love to be adored. They love to be like, oh, you're so beautiful. You're so, and look at this pink here and look at that opening over there. And, I often with couples am teaching the often male partner to give a little word bath to the woman's vulva. And, those words don't come easily. They don't come readily for anyone. And so it's something to practice and to be in exploration and curiosity with, like, how else could I describe what I'm feeling when I look at your vulva? When I look at your vulva, I feel so open. My heart just feels wide and my mind feels so expansive. You can always come, if you're like, I don't know what to say about their vulva, you can always come back to, what are you experiencing? What are you feeling? I'm feeling fucking horny. I'm feeling turned on. I'm feeling hot. Like
I want to touch it. I want to smell it.
makes me,
my
yeah.
mouth is salivating. I want to get in there. I want to feel how wet you're getting. I want to see you shatter all over me. I want to pray at your altar. This looks like the most incredible flower in this garden. This looks like, you can look up things to say.
Yeah.
So you got a little more confidence.
Yeah.
Because even seeing what someone else would say, even like going onto AI and getting some suggestions, it will put words to what you already feel. And it's really awesome to go, oh, finally, that language matches my desire and my experience and my get off from like the privilege that I get to play with this thing, this mysterious, amazing thing. And that can often really turn your partner on. Now, some partners might feel really shy when they start hearing dirty talk. It might make them a little uncomfortable, but it's really important for the two of you to suspend. There's two things that are going on. The woman who owns the vulva may be having her own internalized discomfort around hearing dirty talk, but her yoni is responding to it. And it's very interesting how that is like a lack of coherence between how we internalize what's okay to what, like the sexualization of our body, versus how our body actually responds to this worshiping and this word bath that Willow brought up. And how can we turn that into a coherent field? It's a really beautiful thing to heal. It's a very interesting thing to be conscious of. And then it's even more powerful to make the bridge, to close the gap between those two things. So if ladies, if you're having that experience where you're kind of cringing when someone is describing how beautiful, how sexy, how desirable this part of your body is, this would be a really important time and a major edge to get the mirror involved. Because for you to see how your body responds during that kind of worshiping is going to help you correct what this conditioned cringe is. Because that conditioned cringe is something someone's, it's the shame of a different generation. It doesn't actually belong to you. And if you could see like the holy, religious, amazing thing that your body's possible of, like that dripping pleasure and arousal is your birthright. It's how you're designed. And frankly, it's how your God designed you. For those of you that have the shame connected to being a woman who's sexual, because growing up in that world, I get it. I've been there. I've done that. And that can be corrected. There's a whole, and that is so key to you actually experiencing big orgasms, because those limiting conditioned thoughts is what dampens all of your arousal and keeps these amazing, transcendent, honestly, religious experiences of pleasure out of your reach. So there's a lot of things going on in this conversation, right? We have the anatomy. We have magnetic energy. We have how to change the way we touch a vulva so that we can get more erectile tissue engorged. And then there's all of the energy, the way that our thoughts are disjointed with our arousal.
Plus, we have the word bath. So if you guys, if you're out there and you're with your partner and you're like, okay, let me try this word bath thing. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh, it's just a little bit too much to receive you talking about my vulva in that way. Or it's a little,
Mhm.
I don't know exactly what to say. You can always pull it back, zoom out a little bit, and just word bath each other standing there naked. Like that is a beautiful practice in and of itself. Or even in lingerie, just like whatever comfort level is right for you. If you haven't done this with your partner, just let her stand there and receive your appreciation of her curves and her skin and her eyes and her hair and her nose and everything about her. It heals the soma, because shame is stored in our cellular tissues. And when we fill ourselves up with love and beauty and we're able to receive that, it pushes the shame out. It's very Taoist, it's very Chinese medicine. It's like instead of isolating the problem and focusing and making that, the main focus, and healing that one area, it's like, let's actually infuse the entire system with more health, more chi, more vitality, more love, more appreciation. And everything that is malfunctioning or diseased is going to automatically heal itself.
Now, some of you might be going, there's no way my partner is going to let me stand her up and talk about how beautiful I think her body is. She hates her body. She's so self-conscious. The idea of someone looking at her is like horrifying. It's okay if she's not ready for that stage. Let's work her up to it. And one of the ways that you can work her up to it is have her close her eyes, and you can close your eyes too. And then use your touch to be your word bath. So you're still using your words, but everyone's eyes are closed, and you describe how luscious this is, how soft that is, the ridges of this, the hills and valleys of that, the delight that, like, describe what you're feeling as you move your hands across her breast, as you feel the underside of her boob, as you feel the curvaceousness of her tummy, as you feel the hills and valleys and the wetness of her vulva, of what it feels like to have your fingers right at the opening, the way her yoni wants to grip your fingers and suck her in, the way it feels of the warmth of what she feels like in the inside, how tight and firm but supple and soft, how silky she is, how it feels like there's rose petals everywhere, how you love the texture of this scar, how you love the little ripple here you feel on her hips that might be a stretch mark. Really describe with your words how delightful it is to touch her. That also counts as a word bath. And if she can get accustomed to that, then someday she'll be accustomed to your eyes being open and to her eyes being opened. And then one day she'll be able to stand in front of the mirror while you touch her with her eyes open and your eyes open, and you point to all these parts that you're touching as you shower her with more words. It's one of the most healing, transformational experiences any of us could go through. And oh, by the way, if you're a woman listening to this, do this to your woman or do this to your man, because your
Yeah,
man also needs a word bath.
absolutely. We all need
Describe
word.
how beautiful his cock is. Describe the colors. Describe how it changes as it gets engorged with blood. Describe how good it tastes. Describe how good it smells. Describe how much you long for it, how much you love it. Massage your neck and your face with it. When we get this close to people's genitals and we really describe how it affects us and how beautiful it is, even if you're not even sure if you think genitals are beautiful. I remember thinking genitals were weird and not beautiful and not exactly appealing, but I changed my mind about that the closer I got to it and the more I practiced this thing that seemed like an alien became something actually quite divine and special. So this is also a way for you to even change your own mind about your previous ideas of
Okay.
how beautiful or ugly genitals are.
Yeah. And if you're not sure what to say, then you can just play what Leah just the last 2 minutes of this episode on repeat over and over and over again until they infuse into your brain. Because those were epic word bath words that Leah just fountained off for you all. So you're welcome.
You're welcome. My pleasure. My honor to give you those words.
All right. Now, I know some of you out there in relationship are like, well, that sounds awesome. I would love it if my partner would do that for me. That would be phenomenal. But there's no way my partner is going to give me a word bath. They don't know how, they're not comfortable in their own body. They're not comfortable with their own sexuality. They have no idea how to fountain off that kind of verbiage, So there might be some of you out there who are like, yeah, that'd be nice. And I'm just not with that partner. What would we say to them?
Do it to them.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say, do it to yourself, actually.
Yeah.
Do it to yourself and do it to them. You go in the mirror. You stand there. You word bath yourself. You word bath your own vulva. And then do it to them too. And do it without any expectation of reciprocation. But you will see magic afoot. You will see things shift.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't have to have a partner to do anything that we discussed in this episode. In fact, self-pleasuring, this is how you get better at self-pleasuring. If you've been like me for 30 years, not really knowing how to get off on self-pleasuring, not being interested in masturbation, not really ever getting much out of it, this is how you get into it. And I didn't really anchor this in. By this time I'd been a sexual teacher, teaching sex and tantra for 15, 16, 17 years until I discovered really how to get off through self-pleasuring. I was well into my late 30s, early 40s. And it all really hooked up with bringing more vulva stimulation into what I was doing. It was having my whole palm massaging my vulva. It was playing with toys, but having that palming motion connected, feeling for the roots of the shaft of my clitoris, not really even bothering with my head of my clitoris. You see women in porn and stuff self-pleasuring or masturbating, or you've been with a partner and it looks like they're just rubbing the shit out of their clitoris,
which probably doesn't even feel good.
And I assure you, even though it looks that way, vibrationally, that's not actually what's happening. The pressure that she's actually applying isn't nearly as much as it looks. The speed that she's applying isn't nearly as deep as the pressure it looks. So the speed might be fast, but it's more of a vibrational sensation. It's not a super mashing. Unless we're at a really high level of arousal, then it might elevate to more pressure and more speed, but looks can be deceiving. Mm-hmm. And I think the last tip I have for you today is that what we tend to do to other people's genitals is what we've learned to do to our own. So you might be pleasuring a partner the way that you pleasure your cock, which probably applies a lot more speed and a lot more pressure. Makes sense. I would do that too. I would do what works for me on someone else. Very instinctual, very smart, but very rarely does that flow. That's oftentimes too hard, too fast. So we really got to go back to what Willow mentioned in the beginning of this episode. Less is more stillness, more slowness, more full connection to the whole vulva. Then let her with her own pelvis lean in to the stimulation that she wants. She'll grind against you the way that feels good. Her system will just automatically orient itself to it. And if you've got music on in the background, that has rhythm and beat. And our body kind of starts to drop in just somatically to rhythm and beat, and we'll start to arch into the touch with a little bit with that background music. It really, really is helpful.
I almost never have sex without music in the background anymore. I mean, it feels really like I'm like something's missing. You gotta have some tunes to move to. It's a dance. Sex is a dance. It's a sexy dance, and it's super fun.
Yeah.
One of the things we often say when we're teaching live is we talk about stillness being one of the most powerful and one of the most underutilized strokes out there, stillness. And there's a dance between stimulating and getting things revved up and warmed up and juiced up and flowing, getting arousal turned on. And then there's time to pause. And sometimes in that pause, when you're holding, maybe just cupping the vulva, or one hand on the vulva, one hand on the heart, running circuitry, running energy between the heart to the vulva, it's in those moments that a woman's body can really discover new things about herself. And sometimes that discovery is a release of emotion, or a release of laughter, or just an internal experience of like, oh my God, I am worthy. I am valuable. I am beautiful. I am amazing. I am a child of God. I am love. All I am is love. And those experiences are what, again, heals everyone somatically and really gives this new sense of confidence that you can create anything you want in your life, because sexual energy is creative energy. It creates a whole new human being. So why not create a whole new human life for yourself with this energy? So we can really be each other's sexual healers. We can really help each other and support each other's bodies, and releasing the systemic shame that is so deep and so old that we're not even conscious of it most of the time. And we can really help to support each other and open each other up to this truth of love is at the root of what we all are.
Yeah. So we've got Rooted in Desire is coming to Santa Barbara and coming to Sacramento. Sacramento is going to be in November. Santa Barbara, I believe, is in January. Those classes fill up. So the link will be in the show notes, sexreimagine.com/rooted-in-desire. And come check it out if you really want to learn, ladies, how to understand how your sexual system works for the greatest amount of depth, of transformation, of transcendence, of love, and of get off. Let us help you capitalize and get into connection with your desire from a really deep place. And it's the nuts and bolts. It goes from the anatomy and it goes to your mind, because how you get turned on and the type of orgasms you can have in penetration also works with learning how to harness your erotic mind. It's not about necessarily getting out of your head. It's knowing what to do with your head that brings you amazing pleasure. So we hope to see you down the Tantra Trail. And please take a look at our catalog of masterclasses, because we go into some in-depth study around all these areas. And they're really great little short classes that you can easily digest and then integrate into all aspects of your life.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll see you on the other side.
Yeah. Love you long time. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. This episode was hosted by Tantric Sex Master Coach and Positive Psychology Facilitator Leah Piper, as well as by Chinese and Functional Medicine Doctor and Taoist Sexology Teacher Dr. Willow Brown. Don't forget, your comments, likes, subscribes, and suggestions matter. Let's realize this new world together.
Hey, we want you to know about one of our favorite classes inside of the Sex Reimagined library.
It's called the Erotic Polarity Masterclass, How Opposite Energies Create Delicious Desire.
Whether you're in a relationship that's lost its spark or dating and craving more charge, this is the class that explains exactly why polarity works and how to consciously bring it online.
We go deep on the 4 modes of erotic exchange: giving, receiving, taking, and allowing, and why most couples rarely play with all of them. We also demystify dominant and submissive dynamics with zero shame and zero mystery.
This is an on-demand masterclass that you can watch anytime, anywhere, alone or with a partner.
Go to sexreimagine.com/courses to purchase it today.